80% of the people that watch my videos aren't subbed. Why? Today what we're going to do is we're going to go over Machabo's Guilty Gear Fundamentals interview. He has an interview that he did around when I think Exert or Revelator first came out, where he basically outlined what you need to do to become a competent Guilty Gear player. I'm really glad you asked that. Who's Machabo? Why should we take him seriously? So Machabo is actually one of the greatest Guilty Gear players of all time, and he was able to translate that skill into like Street Fighter V very well, even qualifying for the Pro Tour. And here's the guide. All right, we'll go over this completely. Let me do a thing real quick. I'm going to try to get into training mode. All right, so if you've never seen this thing, right, this is on a website. It got taken down for a while, and I guess like now it's back, and I'm really happy that it's back because like I couldn't find it for a while, and like I read this every now and then because I think it's really strong, right? I think it helps you like understand how to be good at video games, like fighting games, pretty generally, right? Like its advice is just good advice. All right, so basics. I gotta turn this game down. God, how loud this is. I'm just gonna turn the background, the BGM volume all the way down. Becoming anti-airs is crucial. There are many different ways to attack from the air in Guilty Gear. For example, forward, jump, instant air dash, double jump, special move. You have to know which of your anti-air options are strong versus their air options. It's the difference between characters and matchups, therefore a question of knowledge. Yeah, that sounds pretty normal. You can turn the tides of a game by successfully anti-airing. On the other hand, if you are weak at anti-airing, you easily get bullied. i.e. being good at anti-airing is crucial for mind games to happen, otherwise they get to jump in on you for free. As a whole, there are 5 or 6 different types of anti-airs. Obviously, these categories have fluid borders. Fast moves with a tall hitbox, Soul 5k. Upper body and vulnerable moves, Soul 6p. High large moves, Kai's 2h. Invulnerable moves, Soul's Viper. Air-to-air moves, Jumping P, and Air Throw. Air Throw is a very important button. So what do we have? So they named 2 buttons, right? Like it was standing kick, right, which does hit very high up above Soul's head, and if it combos, right, I'm assuming that if they're jumping, like you probably get like a combo, right? They said 6p because it's invulnerable. This being invulnerable is still such a weird move to me. And Volcanic Viper, right? It's just a pretty traditional DP. All character moves are different, used in different ways and to varying degrees of success against different characters in various situations. As a matter of fact, it's your job to find out what works versus what, if it's possible to do on reaction. Knowledge is always the first and most important step. Learning neutral game using the 3 structure. Here we introduce a leading concept, the 3 structure, which is composed by 3 parts that can facilitate decision-making neutral game. An active neutral game in the large scheme of things can be divided into decisions regarding 3 different types of move: Okiwaza, Atewaza, and Sashi Kaeshi. Okiwaza means that you preemptively make a move because it covers a certain space or because it wins against certain moves. Atewaza means doing a move that will hit waiting opponents, example to dash in and do a low hitting move. Sashi Kaeshi means to wait for the opponent to make a move and react into it, example to dash in, FD break, and then punish a whiffed move. Which move that is depends on the character. Somewhat simplified, you could say that Okiwaza beats Atewaza, Atewaza beats Saishi Keishi, and Saishi Keishi beats Okiwaza. So, all right. So if we're gonna break this down, right, into like Street Fighter terms, Okiwaza, right, means that you preemptively make a move. So that's like me being here in neutral and buffering like 5p into like Bandit Revolver, right? Knowing that like if you dash in, it'll hit you and I can do this, right? So like we're just in neutral here and I'm just doing this and it'll hit you if you like decide to come in, right? The other one was like if someone's just waiting, right? Like if I'm just sitting here waiting, right, to just dash in and low, right? And you get like a full mix up. And then the other one is like dash out block, right? Because like it forces them to commit to an action if they think that you're just gonna run in, and then they whiff a button and you whiff punish it. That makes a lot of sense. For example, yeah, 1 beats 2, beats 3, beats 1, so on and so forth, right? Like, so it's like rock, paper, scissors. These interact differently depending on matchup. Anti-airs also fit the 3 structure. Example, you can anti-air on reaction with Okiwaza. Yeah, like, just like, generally you could say that many players on higher levels often go for the 3rd option because they are most reactive. But in the grand scheme of things, one approach is not enough. Interactions within the 3 structure will always emerge. Example, Soul 6B, yeah, wins a counter hit versus Kai's / at certain ranges. See if I can do that. This happens because Soul 6B hurtbox and upper body invulnerability interact with the hit and hurtboxes on Kai's /. Yeah, I keep saying forward, right? It's /. Let me see if I can get the dummy to do that, right? I guess what they're saying is like this should beat this because I should go under it. I don't think I get anything off of that though, but like that's like I did just win the neutral, right? Generally, you could say that many players on the high level often go for the 3rd option because they're most reactive. If you understand the logic behind the 3 structure and therefore the mind games that emerge from it, and do your homework on different matchups, you should be able to take important steps forward. Tips for long-term development. Try to avoid doing risk-filled moves. Example, greed severs in neutral that win you games online just because you win with them. You will improve in the long run if you attempt to acquire this way of thinking. There are certainly many ways to have fun with fighting games, but we urge to inspire passion and ambition. Think long term and you will understand what's beautiful about Guilty Gear. It becomes more enjoyable for you and the ones that you play against, right? And then like that makes like a lot of sense, right? Like being like creating a game that is full of depth for you and your opponent is really important, right? Like for the longevity of the game and the people that play it. About combining the 3 structure with anti-airs. To correct a relatively common misunderstanding, you cannot do your go-to anti-air option on reaction against some moves. Therefore, you must do Okiwaza as anti-air. Or if you have to find something else, you can use anti-air this type of move on reaction. It can be rather hard to react versus opponents that jump. Remember that one of the more regular approaches in doing moves that cover certain spaces, buffered into another move in case the previous should hit. Under this sequence, yo, Dag, thank you for the follow. Under the sequence, you could advantageously both 1, react if your move hits, 2, observe if your opponent jump. You can use dash into crouch in similar ways because instant air dash attacks often go over crouchers. It is good to look upward at the same time that you are doing moves on the ground. Yeah, okay, Soul does / 2S, and 2S whiff because the opponent jumped, and then you can anti-air. Yeah, so you just do that into the button, and like it just never comes out because The opponent just isn't there, so you just anti-air. Dato does 2p, 2p far slash, and 2p whiff. Because the opponent jumped, time to anti-air. I think they're using whiffed as in like it just didn't hit anything, which I guess is like technically correct. Sonic Boom, reaction, flash kick, yeah. Decision making based on risk reward. All right, this is the part that Monk's probably gonna hate. Not only are there lots of options in Guilty Gear that you need to know how they interact with each other, you also have to make decisions based on a risk reward perspective. Hereafter only risk reward to be able to win more consistently. What are you thinking about when you make decisions? What is the mind game? Example, what are you thinking about when you're trying to stop an air dash? It is important to know why you are making a certain decision. Risk reward is therefore not about avoiding all risk. Instead, it's about making conscious decisions, taking different factors into account, often positioning, damage, tension, and life. By playing games, you'll find yourself in types of situations you need to know about more often. Doing your homework after games is important and fun because it gives both short-term results, you know what you're going to do against X, and long-term results. You learn how to think about building a knowledge base. Yeah, this is actually like, I guess, like how I do things in Street Fighter. Soul gets a yeah, because you want the reward. You don't know risk, you just know reward. It isn't about finding an absolute answer. Instead, it's about understanding the situation and making a conscious decision based on the risks that are present. This can also be applied on specific players and thereafter changed back and forth as the game continues. Risk reward is therefore absolutely not about avoiding all risk. Instead, it's about making conscious decisions based on different factors, often damage, tension, and life. Sure, right? Because like if I'm at low life, right, I'm probably just gonna go for a safer option. Think before you use your tension. Definitely run up throw. It's definitely run up throw. Run up throw is actually just the best. Tension meter is very important in Guilty Gear because meter enables many different useful options such as roaming cancels, overdrives, faultless defense. A lot of this stuff doesn't exist anymore, so we're gonna gloss over this. That someone is bad at bursting is not something to laugh about. I think it's a sign of serious flaws. That's crazy. The reason Machabo says this is because either the player has no knowledge about when they should burst and needs to do their homework, or the player is too emotional and has no actual control over when and why he bursts. Therefore, the latter is linked to the knowledge question at another point we haven't touched yet, namely that it is always better to keep calm in fighting games. A whiff blue burst means you lost your entire burst meter, as opposed to if you hit it, where it will return 20%. Find out when you can burst versus different characters because it is matchup specific. Some choose to also focus on gold burst versus some character players. The important thing is you should know when and why. Short about the importance of game philosophy to continue evolving. There are many different ways to have fun with fighting games. You are allowed to play and have fun, mash like a fool, or just do crazy specials all the time. It is, however, not the road to becoming good at fighting games. It can also be plainly boring for players that are trying to learn to play versus someone that isn't even trying. At the same time, it can also be incredibly fun to play versus an opponent that is trying to learn and does their best, even if they aren't very good yet. It is noticeable on the playstyle what they are looking for in their play. It will become more fun for you and for your opponent if you really try, and it is okay that it takes time. I wish someone told me that, like, I wish I had read this in like 2011. If someone told me it was okay to take time to do that, right? Results don't often appear in the form of number of won games. It also shows in the content of the matches. It can therefore be large difference between a 110 set and a 110 set. I like how he repeated the same thing. That's really important. Many people that pick up GG have a tough time keeping up because they experience that everything happens so fast. This is essentially a knowledge question. Because they don't recognize moves and therefore cannot register them in time, give it some time and you will adjust quickly. Now, he didn't repeat it. A 110 is definitely different from a 110. I get it. Like where the third eye is open. Defense. This is what I want. Build a knowledge base for decision making. In Guilty Gear, offense is very strong and all characters can get knockdowns from very many of their combos. Do your best to reverse the situation that follows, therefore very important. Even on defense, knowledge is the first and most important step. Even on defense, one should start from risk reward while making decisions. That was the closest 0-13 first time I ever saw. It's real. Only from understanding what beats what will facilitate mind games. What beats what is not only about which moves you have that beats the opponents, it's broader than that. It's how you can make the best out of a risk-filled situation. In 2D fighting games, down back is a standard alternative on defense, whereas overheads and throws are something the opponent tries to break your defense with. Useful distinctions about what your opponent's moves are, as if there are mix-ups. Aim to break your down back. Examples are Milia's overhead, Bedman's 6-8 because it crosses up, and Soul's wild throw because it's a throw and it beats you just blocking and down backing. Frame trap, aim to kill your Abare. Pressure, aim to continue attacking. Kai's 6K or Venom's carcass raid, right? Or in my case, stand P, stand far slash. Casual half a bar, no big deal. Different characters have different moves they use when attacking. They also have different moves they can use when defending. Therefore, defense is very often about matchup specifics. But even here, there are some fundamental principles and techniques that can be learned that then apply to matchups and opponents. If you apply risk reward to decision making on defense, you should ask yourself, what does the most damage in which situations? It's definitely just DPing. DPing is great. If I have meter, then I can RC it and it's safe. How does this change your opponent has, example, more or less tension? Well, if they have more meter, then it's bad for me. What alternatives do you have versus this, and how do they change depending on the situation? I can learn how to Abare better if I feel like they're just getting away with like lots of buttons. Also backdashing. Backdashing is a great option just to get me out of dodge. I don't do it in neutral enough after blocking things, but I should do it versus things. Once again, it becomes a question of meter, life, tension, burst, and a question of positioning. Mid-screen, you in the corner, the opponent in the corner. Yeah, so like if I'm in the corner, maybe backdashing isn't the best thing. But if I'm mid-screen, maybe backdashing is the best thing. And I have a button for it now, so I can just do it. The answer to this question becomes your decision base for your decision-making risk reward. General defensive options. Faultless defense. Gives you extra pushback. The opponent is pushed further away from you. Gives you extra block stun. 2 frames on the ground, up to 4 frames in the air. Sometimes just being an extra block stun is really good because it means that people don't get like their setups on you. You take no chip damage. Your guard bar does not increase. The extra pushback and block stun gives you more time to react to tick throws because they have to dash in and wait longer to be able to throw you. And also make the opponent's moves whiff in their Gatling, which sometimes enables punishment. It differs between matchups, but in general, it's good to FD an opponent's first attack. It's fair. Instant block. Barely any pushback, the opponent remains on the ground close to you. You receive less block stun. You receive a bit of tension and your tension pulse increases. Your guard bar goes up. All right, so that's pretty good. We'll build hella fast the longer they block. Don't do anything but block. Instant block useful areas differ dependently on matchups, but in good, it's generally go for instant block on specific moves. For example, Soul's Bandit Revolver. Learning how to use both FD and instant block is important for those who want to become good players. You can use FD more universally as long as you're aware that you're using it in exchange for your tension. You should really only use instant block if you know exactly why you're using it, because you have to return to neutral to IB and can therefore be hit by moves. Generally, one could say that you want to FD the first attacks and instant block the last one in a string. This, however, changes depending on matchups. Fuzzy Abare jump block throw. All right, fuzzy. This is a thing that like Alex likes to say all the time, right? Fuzzy strings are really important in this game. Before we carry on, it must be mentioned that fuzzies are additional defensive options. You must first accept that mind games will emerge because even these have weaknesses. However, if you want to become really good at Guilty Gear, you need to know these. Fuzzy Abare jump block throw. All are terms for types of option selects where you perform a series of inputs that begin with block that in Guilty Gear primarily exploits how startup frames, hit stop, block stun, and throw invincibility frames work. The area of use are often specific and are often used on wake up in specific situations in specific matchups. They are, however, the strongest defensive options in Guilty Gear because they reduce the risk involved in different decision-making situations. Shortly summarized, Fuzzy Abare means doing block, hit, block, where the timing of the hit is during the block stun of the first move the opponent would have done. This is done to 1. Block, and then 2. Hit the opponent before a certain move mix-up has finished startup. For example, Kai safe jump Okizeme from Stun Dipper knockdown versus Soul. Dash in jump S is a safe jump setup after Stun Dipper knockdown. This means that doing Volcanic Viper is a bad option because it will be blocked, but if they have tension, Soul could of course do Volcanic Viper RC. Kai can also do a classic high-low throw from this jump in. Kai does Stun Dipper, dash jump to jump S meaty, or B, air dash jump S jump H, or C empty jump in 5k CS, or D empty jump in throw after invulnerability on wake up is ended. Soul answers with Fuzzy Abare. Soul blocks the timing of the meaty jump in attack and presses 5k immediately after. If he does this correctly, the following happens. Soul blocks, Soul does 5k before jump S comes out, Soul does 5k before Kai's 5k, Soul does 5k before Kai is able to throw. Like, he's saying, Fuzzy Abare. Dash jump S is a safe jump setup after Stun Dipper knockdown. This just means that Soul doing Volcanic Viper is a bad option because it will be blocked. But if they have tension, Soul could have just, of course, do Volcanic Viper, just do DP into Roman cancel. Kai can also do a classic high-low throw from this jump in. So like if he doesn't go for the jump S meaty, then he can just go for a real mix-up. Jump S meaty, or Kai does Stun Dipper dash jump to jump S meaty, B air dash jump S jump H, or empty jump in 5k. Empty jump in throw after throw invulnerability on wake up is landed. Soul answers with Fuzzy Abare. So Soul blocks the timing of the meaty jump in attack and then presses 5k immediately. So if he fucked up his the timing of the jump S, so I instant block this and then press 5k after. So the 5k comes out because I'm blocking the jump S, right? And I 5k if he does any other option. So you fuzzy block it. Right, you can see my inputs that I mashed it. And it only comes out if he does an option that isn't the option that hits me immediately. In this example, Fuzzy Abare wins versus Kai's entire so-called mix-up. If the Kai player doesn't answer with something that wins versus Fuzzy Abare, this never becomes a mix-up. Somewhat simplified, you could say that during Fuzzy Abare, you want a fast move that preferably hits upwards. Souls is perfect because his 5k does just that and starts up in 3 to 5 frames. For the invested, do I play many anime games? No, not at all. What Kai can do in this scenario is do Stun Dipper dash jump to air stun edge to confirm re-dash air combo. If Soul would have done Volcanic Viper, Soul would instead have gotten a counter hit and meterless pickup. Oh, so that's when they do Stun Dipper the jump into like the what is it, the glyph? Oh no, just air stun edge. That's just the fucking me. Fuzzy jump. Block low and jump throws. Extra strong versus characters with command throws. Shortly summarized, fuzzy jump means doing FD block, jump, FD block, where the timing for the jump is exactly before the throw and vulnerability ends and after the block's on the first move that the opponent does. This is to 1, block, and then 2, jump away from the opponent's throw before his finished startup. For example, Potemkin safe jump setup from 2D. After 2D, Potemkin can do a safe jump setup by doing forward, high jump, jump H. This means it's a bad option to do a reversal Shoryuken because it will be blocked. But if you have tension, you can just do it in RC and get away from it. Potemkin can, however, do low or throw from this. Potemkin does 2D high jump to jump H to meaty low combo, jumping heavy to meaty to Potemkin buster, or empty jump in to 2k 2D. Sin answers with fuzzy jump. Sin blocks at the timing of the jumping meaty, does low faultless defense, does up back jump to low faultless defense immediately after. If he does this correctly, the following combo happens. Yeah, this is chicken blocking. This is chicken blocking and Marvel. right? Like I would go here and then do that. So I would jump out of the mix-up. I would jump out of the throw if if he goes for the throw, and I would go like this, and then my character would look like this and like stay on the ground if he goes for like the empty jump combo. That makes sense. Somewhat simplified, one could say fuzzy jump is a strong option versus characters that need throws, and it becomes extra strong for characters that can convert to combos with high damage. Then could get 200 plus damage when Potemkin went for Potemkin Buster. Alright, yeah, so if they like try to like whip a throw and you get a punch. Fuzzy block, blocking specific high-low mix-ups. This is like super important against characters like Ino, right? Like because of like their ability to like put you in the fucking blender. Shortly summarized, fuzzy block means doing low block, low block, or high block, low block, high block, depending when the timing is between the shift when the mix-up hits first. For example, Kai's grinder charge stunned meaty Okizeme. This is all very specific to that guilty gear. The player responds to fuzzy block. Fuzzy block is a good option versus specific high-low mix-ups. You just have to learn the timing of what does what, right? Kai does charge, stun edge, YRC, grinder, charge, stun edge, dash forward, jump. Player responds with fuzzy block, i.e. blocking the timing of the jumping meaty, then blocking low. It happens before the high mix-up, then starts blocking high at a timing the jump S would have hit, to 4 low or high blocking depending on what happened. If done correctly, the following happens. The low gets blocked, the high gets blocked, and the jumping gets blocked. For Kai to defeat this fuzzy block, blah blah blah. Somewhat simplified, one can say fuzzy block is a good option versus specific high-low mix-ups. Yeah, that makes sense. Mind games. Disclaimer about mind games. Mind games emerge only when both opponents have a firm grasp on the options. Yes, the concept that mind games are only relevant if both players are operating on the same information. Yeah. If you only do a specific high-low mix-up against someone that can fuzzy block, you could easily think the opponent is simply godlike and can block everything on reaction. In reality, the opponent is not a god, and there was no mind game, because those two options that you alternated between simply don't become a mix-up unless you show you can do a third option that kills fuzzy block. There are many examples of this relatively common phenomena when the inexperienced player thinks they just lost mind games, when in reality, there wasn't any. If someone just waits patiently and you do something punishable on reaction, it doesn't mean you lost a mind game. Instead, it shows you did something in a situation where it wasn't a mind game. But if you know what you should do to avoid that and then show it, it can become the first option to a mind game. This is what Machabo wants to emphasize. Even for mind games, knowledge is the first and most important step. Only from understanding what beats what can mind games occur. Can mind games emerge. He also recommends the following if you want to become skilled at fighting games. Take no shortcuts by relying on a playstyle that emanates from options that work just because the opponent doesn't know how to handle them. That's real shit. If you do, you can easily get stuck in improvement and therefore not be able to win versus players at higher levels. Do I have a link to this? Yeah, I'm going to link this in the video. One last note, even players at higher levels are also humans and cannot be right in all decisions where mind games emerge. It is solely about knowledge and execution, both decision making and inputs. Initiator and receiver in mind games. Who has the advantage? The answer is that the initiator has the advantage. Who is the initiator though? And why doesn't the initiator have the advantage over the receiver? Initiator is just the one who is in a favorable position and can initiate moves that the receiver has to adjust to. Usually this relationship isn't very obvious, but Axel versus Soul full screen can work as an example. Axel is the initiator and Soul is the receiver. Why? Axel has reach and Ren Sengeki wins versus everything on the ground. This forces Soul to maneuver around it. So this is like button versus like make them show the combo, don't tap concede. Yeah. So this is like Dalsim versus like Cammy, right? Like I have to understand that what Dalsim can do in the neutral on the ground is very good, and it's up to me to beat it. Who has the advantage? Axel has the advantage because he can choose not to do Ren Sengeki. Soul, however, must get in and must use instant air dash or bandit bringer to win versus Ren Sengeki. It is therefore not an RPS mind game, even if it is an RPS mind game. Soul can do instant air dash to win versus Rensengeki. Axel can do anti-air to win versus instant air dash. Soul can dash in to win versus anti-air. But it's still not an RPS mind game because Axel has the advantage as the initiator due to reach and how moves interact. Axel doesn't need to do the move. He can do anything, but Soul cannot. Soul has to think about several options. Primarily, what do I do versus this move? In other words, Axel has a projectile, and Soul is the one who has to maneuver around it. To make the situation even harder, Axel also has the up follow-up from Rensengeki. Even if Soul avoids it, he has to think about the follow-up. It's RPS, but one of the initiator's options is a gun. Yeah, that's basically it. Thus, Axel is the initiator and has advantage that forces Soul as the receiver to respond. This is the base of the initiator has the advantage in mind games philosophy. Initiator has an advantageous position, forces the receiver to make a decision based on the circumstances. This relationship is very clear. You can also apply this 3 structure on this relation. The distribution between who has the advantage and the disadvantage entirely depends on the matchup. It is only about the opponent. How careful is the opponent? How risky is the opponent? Kazunoko. Shoutouts to Kazunoko the God showing up everywhere, because you know that he's just actually goated at every game he touches. Mind games emerge between players. I think that's a very underrated sentence. That's like, I think that mind games emerge against players, right? They don't emerge against characters. It's 100% just a player versus player thing, because the character has the tool. It's up to the player whether or not to use it. And like, that sounds like things that you already know, but knowing it and actually knowing it are 2 completely different things, right? Like that's the part of like how like certain players can just beat certain players, right? Because the options aren't options until you decide to take them. And when you decide to take them is 100% based on who you are as a person. Different players have different tendencies in different situations. Yeah, what cements the framework for this is matchups. Some elementary principles on what you should look for are the following. How is the opponent maneuvering? Does the opponent tend to take greater risk? Is their name Monk HB? Does the opponent tend to minimize risk? Is the opponent named D'Anthrax? What moves and how much does this opponent rely on them? It's all about the opponent, and the opponent at higher levels will be thinking the same thing. Therefore, mind games emerge in a constant interaction between 2 players. Level of knowledge, decision making from a risk-reward viewpoint, execution. And I think like this is where like a lot of people get caught up, right? Like, if one of these things is lacking, then the mind games just like aren't there, right? Like if the level of knowledge isn't even, if the decision making from a risk reward viewpoint isn't in like at least favorable, then one person is always getting better trades, which shows over the course of a longer set. And if one player can't execute, then one player is always at a clear disadvantage. Even if they know what they want to do, they can't actually do it, right? Henceforth, mind games must always keep to a predetermined interaction between 2 characters. Anti-air options, moves within the 3 structures, offensive and defensive options. This is one of the most fantastic things about fighting games. And like I've always said that, right? Like being able to understand at the highest level why these interactions exist and how to play with your opponent when both of you are at a very similar level, the interactions can get very convoluted, right? That's why like you'll see like 2 pro players that like play each other a lot. They'll stand in front of each other and down back, and then down back for like 10 seconds. It's because both of them have considered what the opponent can do, and they know that doing this is probably not the best option, so they're just not going to go for anything. That's pretty cool. Yeah, this is one of the greatest pieces of fundamental understanding of fighting games that's ever been written, and it was written by one of the greatest fighting game players of all time. So let's see if I can do any of that. I don't think I can, but we'll see.